Hey, what's going on guys, and welcome back to another Borderlands 4 build guide. And in this video, we're going to be going over the Gunslinger Cash build. Now this build focuses on gun damage, so you can pretty much just use like any gun, hence like the Gunslinger name. So jumping right in, we're going to be going over the red tree. This is where most of your points are going to be going into, and this is where most of the damage is going to come in. Our first skill is going to be Unleashed, and we're going to put all 5 into here, and this is just going to increase your fire rate with your guns and your action skills. Next, we're going to put another 5 points into your Huckleberry, which is going to increase your crit damage. Next, we're going to put 5 points into Stand and Bleed, and this is just going to give you a overall chance to crit with guns and action skills. Now, you could take those 5 points and put them into Shootist instead, just for that 25% more gun damage, if you have a way to crit. So if you have like a crit knife, you could put it into here since you don't need like the crit chance, but I would just suggest using this so that way you don't have to get a crit knife and stuff like that, because you can use ordnance and stuff like that, and it'll benefit from some of the other later skills that we're going to go over. And we're going to put just 1 point into Trick Shot. And this is kind of more of like a mobbing skill. It's going to give your shots a chance to ricochet. And when those ricochets hit another enemy, it's going to create a bone shard around them, which is going to make them take 30% more damage. Next, we're going to put 5 points into Lawless, which is just going to give us a 45% more damage with kinetic damage. The good thing with kinetic damage is that it is completely neutral against all health types. And then next, we're going to put 3 points into War Wagon, which is going to make it every time that we deal kinetic damage, we have a chance to refill some of our magazine in our gun, and then also restore some of our duration on our action skill. And then here we're going to put 2 points into Pale Rider, which is going to give our action skills bonus kinetic damage as well. Put the 2 points here just so we can get down to this bottom skill down here. You could put like 1 here and 1 here if you wanted to boost your ordnance a little bit. You don't have to. If you want to do like an ordnance build, you could throw the points into there instead. Ordnance does benefit from War Wagon. And down here at the bottom, we have Nothing Beats Lead. We're going to put all 5 points into here, and this is going to convert all of our elemental damage into kinetic damage. And any of that elemental that was converted is going to get bonus damage. Moving on over, we're going to put 5 points into Unshaken, which is going to give us increased damage from all sources whenever we lose Fortune. So anytime that we enter Windfall, that is 10 full stacks of Unshaken that we will gain for a 50% more gun damage. Next, we're going to put 5 points into From Gloam to Glow. And I would say that this is Cash's most powerful skill. Any damage that you take from enemies is going to convert some of that damage into overshield. And then whenever you lose a stack of Fortune, your guns will deal bonus damage equal to your overshield. And you can see that it is boosted with my Wind Rider class mod. We will go over that in a bit, but when farming for it, you do want to make sure you have like 4 or 5 out of 5 if you want like super insane damage. Moving on into the green tree, we're going to put 5 into Charm Bracelet, which is just going to increase our skill damage. And every bone totem we have, we're going to get another 20% per bone totem. Then we're going to put 5 points into Red Moon Rising, which is whenever Windfall is active, we are going to be dealing bonus fire damage with all of our guns and our action skills. And that is going to feed into like the elemental damage getting converted into kinetic damage. And then we're going to take Devil's Tines to get that extra augment, and then put 4 points into Before She Knows You're Dead, just to give you that increased movement speed. And then your skill damage is going to be increased the faster that you're moving. And then we're just going to put 1 point into Can't Stop Winning. It does give you a chance to crit, but we already are getting that from the red tree. So we're only really getting this skill just so we have a chance to enter Windfall whenever we do a crit. And then we're going to put 1 point into Accursed Bones. We're not getting this skill for the lifesteal, but we're getting it for the jinx effect that you can get. So every time that you do action skill damage, you will jinx an enemy, which makes it to where they take 20% more damage. And then our last point is going to go here in the blue tree for Alchemy. Now this is going to give us an extra elemental effect chance, but we really want it just to get these stacks of Fortune every time we do an elemental effect. Now for the skills that are boosted with my class mod, we have a Blur of Fingers and Brass, which every time that we gain a stack of Fortune, it's going to increase our reload and fire rate. The reload speed is not important because we never reload, but the fire rate is the important bit. And then we have 1 point from Dusty Trail. Whenever you slide, you lose a stack of fortune, which would then feed into like Unshaken. For our action skill and augments, we are going to be using the Claromancy. And then for our augments, we are going to be using Mighty 9, which is going to give our guns an ordnance bonus incendiary melee damage to feed into the converting to kinetic. And then we're also going to be using Dirty Dozen, which is going to make it that our minimum fortune is based on how many totems we have. So you can pretty much like stack fortune up before going into a boss fight by just throwing all of your totems. Now on to the weapons and gear. Since this is a high damage gun build, the only thing that I recommend is something with a extremely high fire rate, like the Lucian's Flank with its double barrel alt fire attachment, or the Falky, which is a new SMG from this update. But like I said, you don't need to have specific guns for this build to work. Personally, I love running around with the Hellwalker or just like any shotguns because they already have high damage, and that's just getting more and more, and you never have to actually reload your shotguns because you're always guaranteed crits. And for the rep kit, we're going to be using the Shiny Warpaint, and that's because it's going to, on use, give us 30% more fire rate and movement speed. The secondary perks you don't really like need, but if you are going for one, you can go for Amp for the 200% more damage on your next shot, or Enrage, which is going to increase all of your damage by 30% for 8 seconds. And your ordnance, you can kind of use whatever you want. I have a Crit Knife on just because it has the Deadeye Augment. You can also use like the Bottled Lightning because ordnance also benefits from War Wagon. So when you're getting those crits with your ordnance, it's going to refill its magazine. So you can kind of have like a ordnance build as well. And for the enhancements, the actual manufacturer for them doesn't really matter. If you want to be using like a specific manufacturer for your guns, then you can try and farm for like a Ripper one, for example. But the main thing is the secondary stats, and you're going to want to be looking for fire rate and gun damage and stuff like that. For our shield, we are going to have a watts per dinner. It is the like most simple shield to have for damage. When your shield is full or active, you have a 12% chance to drop a booster that's going to give you overshield. But we have our skills that give us overshield anyway, so you're not worrying about having to get boosters and stuff like that. And then while your overshield is active, you're doing 25% more shock damage, and that shock damage is then getting converted into kinetic damage. Now for like the bonus stats on your shield, you want to look for something like a resistance for a little bit more survivability, or something that's going to give you bonuses to your gun while it's full. And for our class mod, we're going to be using the Wind Rider, that whenever you kill an enemy with a crit, you double your fortune stacks. If you kill an enemy that's with not a crit, you're going to drain half of your fortune stacks. But every time that you gain fortune, you restore 5% of your max health. And whenever you lose fortune, you're going to gain overshield. So like with our skills, when we're losing our stacks, we're getting overshield from this class mod, but then we're also gaining damage from Unshaken. And since we're gaining overshield, we're getting the bonuses from Gloam to Glow as well. And for the secondary stats on the class mod, it's always going to roll with a damage dealt bonus. Mine's not a perfect roll, I roll an action skill, but the main one that you want to find would be like extra fire rate and stuff like that. And onto our firmware, we're going to have 3 out of 3 of bullets to spare. That is going to give us 5% fire rate for the first point. The second point is 20% more mag size, which actually it's not like too important because you never have to reload. However, it benefits that third skill, which is going to give us 50% more fire rate based on our magazine size. And then we're going to have 2 out of 3 on Deadeye, just so we can get that second skill there, which is going to give us 25% increased critical damage. And for your specializations, I would say like the bare minimum you need to really get your damage would be level 50. Just so you can get down into best defense, which is going to increase your damage based on your shield or health by 30%. Riddle you this, which is going to give you increased gun damage up to a maximum of 50% gun damage. And then to get down into Bullet Train, which is going to increase your gun damage the faster that you are moving. And then it's just going to let you hip fire while sprinting. And then a fourth skill you could use would be In the Zone. It's going to increase your damage and your crit damage while you're aiming down the sights and giving you up to a 25% bonus to both of those. It's not necessarily needed, but it is helpful for the extra damage. And then, of course, any extra points that you have, you could just toss them in the brute tree here, just so you get more gun damage out of them. And for your combat loop, you just want to start out every encounter with throwing as many totems out as you can, as that's going to give you your fortune stacks and then increase your chances for windfall, because once you hit windfall, your damage just scales like crazy. And since we have skills that are, whenever we deal like crit damage and stuff like that, it increases our action skill cooldown. You're always going to have a totem available pretty much. And as you can see, we just delete the bosses. And that is Gunslinger Cache. This is a very simple and fun build to use. There's not like a lot of setup. You kind of just like turn your brain off and go shoot some stuff, have a little bit of fun. And if you guys found this video helpful, go down there and drop a like. Also head down into the comments and let me know what you guys think about this build, what kind of builds that you're running on him, or even just like some of the updated builds for the other characters. Because now that we have access to level 60, that's 10 more points for all the other characters. Head down there and just let me know what you guys are out there running. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.